Well then, good day, ladies and gentlemen, cats and dogs, whoever might be watching this stream. I hear there are androids and robots walking around with people these days. So hopefully they're also football fans and are tuned in to this show here, Joga Afro, where today we are going to talk about money in football, money in the transfers, and how all of that is working in these very inflated times. Before we go any further, please hit like, please hit subscribe. You know the rest, all of that hubbub. So I got my brother here with me, Niger Englishman. We were supposed to have two more, but Africans and time and infrastructure and so on and so forth. So we'll leave it there. When they come, they'll come. But I'm with my brother here, Niger Englishman from One Touch TV. Say what's up to the folks at home, please, my brother.
Well, yeah, now, my people, it's your dark skinned man from the motherland. If you didn't know before, today you go understand. Big up everyone in the comments. Big up everyone watching now. Big up everyone watching later. And yes, don't forget again to like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that. Big That's up and Bizo in the building.
I appreciate you, my brother. I appreciate you. We have another one, actually, don't we? After this, where you guys want to fight me about Bukayo.
Do you know what? Because I just found out that Spurs have a game tonight, so we've had to push tomorrow to tomorrow if possible.
Gotcha.
Can you still do tomorrow, just to clear up on the show?
I can still do tomorrow, I think.
It's gonna be an interesting show.
I need to because I want to see Deji's pain live and direct.
Big up.
All right, my brother. Let's get right into it. Okay. We spoke a little bit about it in your absence on Friday, right? Mm-hmm. We spoke about the inflation of the transfer market, but we didn't get very specific, which is precisely what I want to do today. We know how fees have been crazy for players, all these kinds of fees flying around. We spoke a little bit about scouting and how that works. We spoke a little bit about how clubs themselves value their own properties, their own entities, right? Their own players. So let's go a little bit into more specifics about that. But before I do, guess who has arrived? Hey,
Akpos. It has to be Akpos.
We have a superstar in the building.
Of course.
Fashionably late.
Of course.
Fashionably late. Mr. Akpos, football in pigeon. Walk on, my brother.
Well, I'm good. Apologies for coming on late, but I'm coming with a Eric Cantona vibe. You can look at my collar now.
So you now come on the show and you come with a Manchester United vibe. Are you okay? Are you okay?
I'm not coming with the Manchester
United.
Okay? I'm not coming with the Manchester United vibe.
You said Eric Cantona.
I'm coming.
That's
I'm
the only
coming
way I remember him from.
Players the meno, and you know that Eric Cantona thing with the collar like this during the good old days.
Anyway, Akpos has been moving funny of late, so we'll get to that another time.
Yeah, we'll tackle that another time. So, Akpos, you're just in time, my brother, because I wanted to get to our first subject and to dive a little bit deeper into it. Okay, so we had discussed how there's lazy scouting, right? We had discussed how there's lazy scouting all over world football, and it seems that the more money teams have, the lazier they are becoming. Transfers, as opposed to, right, I have the resources. I can go anywhere in the world and scout. I can really focus on this scouting thing, but they're not doing that. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about, especially with you two Gunners, before I give my opinion, is Arsene Wenger, okay? Because for the longest time, Arsene Wenger was criticized for not spending big amounts of money, for not doing this and not doing that, and not keeping up with some of the global football transfer trends, particularly those in England and Europe, of spending big monies on players. He simply refused and said, yes, do I want big stars and big players? Of course. But there are certain amounts of money that I'm not willing to pay for these players. And then, of course, he was notorious for being able to get players in very obscure leagues, obscure players that were unknown to the rest of Europe. And many of them either came in to be a success or the very least were able to maintain Arsenal in that top four sort of position. And people complained and said this and that. And then when he left, people realized how hard it was to do what he managed to do. So speak a little bit about that, gents. Do you miss Arsene? Did your opinion of Arsene change in retrospect, or did you always know that he was managing to keep up with these transfers and so on in a great way?
To be honest, initially when I started to watch our decline, I didn't realize how much of an issue, how far behind we were in terms of other teams, in terms of financial power. Obviously, Chelsea came in straight after the Invincibles and kind of disrupted the whole market, where players Arsenal maybe could have gone for like 12 to 15 million and now going to like 25, 30 millions. And
Yeah,
we just couldn't compete in that market.
yeah,
So it did take some shrewd business from Arsene Wenger to keep us in the top four for so long, to be honest. And I would say up until the first FA Cup, after I think there was a 12-year wait for that one, because I can't remember. Remind me, the first drought we had, it was like a 12-year wait. So up until that FA Cup where Ramsey scored in the extra time, I didn't blame Wenger for the decline of Arsenal. I blamed the board, the lack of funding, and all that sort of stuff. But I do think after that competition, winning that, he should have walked away, because that would have been the perfect time to do it. But the fact that he decided to stay, then he had a little bit more spending power. Then I don't think he was how do I say it? He was as shrewd in the market as he used to be. And also, he didn't have that edge that he had when he first came to England, because he knew the French market. We went in and found gems upon gems upon gems in that market. But then eventually, I don't know if you noticed, every time you saw a player linked with Arsenal, you heard City linked with him. Then United linked with him, Chelsea linked with him. And they had the money to pay it. So in that sense, I definitely missed him in that sense.
Yeah. What about you, Akpos? I mean, we've spoken about it a couple of times. Speak on Papa Wenger and the influence he had.
And to add to the last point Kunle was buttressing there, I think Arsene Wenger showed the French market to the rest of the European top leagues, and when they saw how successful he has become with bringing in these players for next to nothing signing fees from the French league, everybody began to put an eye there, because we saw that every time, like Kunle said, every time Arsenal were linked to some of the finest young players coming out from the French League One, you could see that all of these other clubs who have more financial powers then were in for those players. We heard about Kante, we heard about the likes of Anthony Martial also was one that was supposed to potentially come over to the Arsenal, but as at that time, Wenger was somebody who was championing not paying maximum that huge amount of money for young potential talent, and he was always preaching that gospel that no, I can't be paying over the board for these guys. They're good, but I still need to pay what I think I value these players for.
Facts.
And I think that was where his problems began, because I think like some managers a little bit have tweaked some of those principles, have tried to a little bit come to the middle, tried to a little bit compromise, but Wenger stood to his gun, and we've seen that in the present time, money is always going to make a lot of those players change their mind in terms of where they want to play. Ages past, some players were like, this is the football club where I want to play for, and they will stick to their guns, and they will eventually sign for those football club. But in recent times, we've just seen very few players do it. We saw it with Rafinha. Other clubs came into the deal, trying to put big money in, trying to even offer him more salary, but the player had a dream to, okay, this is where I want to play for. The one we saw quite recently was Mikhailo Modric, a player who has been a lot of people have been saying they've not seen a player twerk so much for a club in the recent time.
They twerk
and change their mind all of a sudden. So we've all seen that money makes the football world go round right now. So I think in that aspect, Wenger saw the future. He saw what was going to happen, and he was always preaching the gospel that we have to put an end to this. We have to mitigate some of these things. UEFA were listening. They brought in the UEFA financial fair play, as to cool down the likes of Wenger, as to cool likes the people who are becoming his disciple in terms of what he was saying with the sign-on fee. But for me personally, I have to big up Arsene Wenger for what he did, but I think the game evolved. Players began to want more money. Agents wanted more money. You understand? So I think a lot of that changes some of those loyalty in terms of football. Some scouts might tell you, okay, we have this player readily available for you. Come get him. But immediately other clubs come in, they will definitely go in and get the business done before you, because these clubs who are developing these players, they definitely want money. They don't care what you have to offer the players in terms of the player development. The first thing that comes from them is how much money they want to make from such deals. So
Yeah.
I think more money and Wenger not trying to compromise his ideology actually added to his decline the way we saw it in his later days at Arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, Arsenal became somewhat of a victim, right? Even with the players that they already had, right? Because they were now starting to demand the kinds of monies that they were seeing being given
their
to
teammates, their
other
mates
clubs.
getting paid.
Right, so your teammate is at Manchester City, he's at Chelsea, and he's earning twice or three times
and you even know you play better than that lad.
I was about to say, you even think to yourself that, you know what, I'm actually a superior player, but I'm here at Arsenal because Papa Wenger is refusing to pay. Now you get your head turned, and players, Nasri went to City,
like Cashley Cole,
right? Cashley Cole, right? There was a period where Arsenal players were just being raided because Arsene Wenger was refusing to capitulate to their, in many cases,
why are you so enthusiastic as you're saying this thing? Why are you so enthusiastic?
I love football. Please don't start with this Arsenal thing. I love football. I speak about this all the time if football is on my lips. But let's move on from this Papa Wenger topic, Chance. I appreciate your thoughts. Let's let in another prima donna who decided that he must be fashionably late.
Fresh boy, Abby.
Fresh boy. This one is a DJ. He's a DJ. He's a DJ. This one, so so.
And he was abusing everybody before this stream.
Do you remember
Nigerian time and all this?
We need to ban him.
This one, right? And actually, I think there's some trouble with his microphone. We'll just give him.
Why won't there be trouble when he's late? How won't there be trouble?
You know these people, bro, and their things here, right? Africans, right? But Chad, fix your. Don't start this war here. Don't start this war here. Chad, fix your microphone and then we'll bring you back in. There's some issues.
Someone was trying to start a mini civil war in the group chat yesterday.
Yes, now
I had to ignore.
I saw. You had to ignore. But gents, let's keep moving here. Okay. If you're just tuning in, please hit like, please hit subscribe. This is how we live. This is it. This is Joga Afro for all the Africans out there who want to see football from their own perspective, represented by their own people. Right? We even have Temba in the comments here. Temba Maluleke. Thanks, brother. Temba. He's usually up here with us as well. Unfortunately, today he's a father recently, by the way. One of the best of them.
Congrats, brother.
Poor guy is even putting Arsenal kits on his baby, and I think it's character building because he go suffer. Right? Anyway, gentlemen, let's talk about scouting then. Right? Arsene Wenger was able to do it, right? Some brilliant scouting. We've just discussed that, but there are other teams, right, in today's football that are still doing spectacularly well, simply based on their scouting model. In fact, the sale of players is becoming their business model. These guys, they buy low or they produce themselves and then they sell, right? We're looking at very good examples. We were watching yesterday Bilbao playing against Madrid. Wonderful Madrid game. And Bilbao not only has a very small pool of scouting players, but if you are not Basque, right? If you are not from the region, wild. You cannot play for the team.
You can't wear the Bilbao shirt.
Right.
That's so impressive.
And these guys have never. They don't get relegated. They compete against the absolute best who scout from all over the world. They competed against Madrid and actually held them for quite some time. They often beat these teams, right? So why is it, gents, that teams like Bilbao, Ajax, Benfica, right? Monaco, Dortmund, PSV. The lists are endless. Why is it that they can do this and find these quality players that supposedly your Chelseas and your Manchester Cities and other big clubs cannot do? What is the difference there? Niger Englishman, let's start with you.
To be honest, I personally think it's laziness. That's because I can't see any other reason why they wouldn't have gone into even like the lack of productivity, for example, the Premier League teams and the La Liga teams for the African market. It's kind of embarrassing because there's so much value for less money in there. Like, I don't know, why wouldn't you take advantage of this situation? It shouldn't be that way, but there's an advantage to take there. Why don't you take advantage of it? Because these clubs have shown you years on end how you can do it. Especially, like, for example, if I'm a scout, right, and I'm looking for a DM, a defensive midfielder, strong, football brain, I'm going to France, isn't it?
Right.
And I'm gonna find me some sort of African French kid in League Two or whatever, and I'll be able to find him because I know there is a chain of talent in that department churning through for that type of player. Like, it's not hard. Like, go and observe what your peers are doing. But what they'd rather do is look at the guy with the big name, do a Todd Bowley, see who the rest of the competitors are looking for, buy him, and then turn him into a star. Where if these Premier League teams don't understand, there's so many N'Golo Kantes out there. So many of them. It's not even like they're not a dime in a dozen. There's so many, but they're just not willing to take chances. Like, for example, Leicester was at the time. So I think these clubs need to wake up and stop being lazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Akpos, just let's give this DJ here an opportunity to answer this one before we come to you, my brother, if you don't mind.
All right, let's go.
Chadley usually has some fantastic insights as far as the academies and the development and buying and selling of players is concerned. Chadley, tell us why is it Bilbao, Ajax, Benfica, Monaco? We spoke about Monaco before. Why is it all these teams can do this thing and these bigger clubs cannot?
In the words of Jose Mourinho, the special one, football heritage. These buying clubs, a lot of them, if you look now, they don't have a sense of culture and identity anymore. It's more about quick fixes, etc., etc. We can talk maybe about Manchester City, who is starting somewhat, but they had to buy so much before getting to that point. These clubs that we've mentioned all had a culture, all had a structure, and all, like, they went to something that was the vision, and they've stuck to it over the years. Because even the coaching, you could say, is aligned to that. The way the teams play are aligned to this. Even Barcelona, before their crazy, moment of corruption, etc., I'm using, as the professor calls, journalistic integrity. Man United as well, in a sense. Before they got crazy with signings and all of that. And that's not to say that Fergie didn't make ridiculous purchases at the time as well. But it's down to culture, If you grew up, for instance, in the Ajax Academy, you knew you're in the system. You're building in the system. Your DNA is Ajax. Your DNA is Benfica. Your DNA is Dortmund. And for me, in terms of scouting, we look at not players who are good, but players who fit our system and players that will fit our IQ, our ethos as a club. And those clubs generally don't have money either because they can produce.
Right.
So we don't need to spend money.
Right.
Because we've brought up players to be good enough to make it.
Yeah, I hear that.
What do you think? What do you think about that, Akpos? Do you agree? Do you think that some of these teams lack a bit of an identity, or do you believe that it's more of what Kunle was saying. I mean, I'm sure these things overlap, but it's also this idea that they're really just lazy. Which one do you think it is there, Akpo? So do you have your own
I
idea?
certainly do agree with what Shad was trying to say there, because for me it's like, if you don't really have a culture, you can't really practice it. Because for me, I think with some of those football clubs, it has to do with their DNA, like Shad said, their identity and all of that. So some of those clubs who do it time over time, they have a blueprint for it. They transfer it from one when one set of generation takes over the club, that identity gets transferred to the next set of people that takes over the running of the football club. We've seen these clubs that do it very well. It's not just a 5-year plan. It's not just a one decade thing. They do it continuously. The
Yeah,
IS, we've seen how much talent has come out from the IS academy, how much talent has come out from the IS team in general. So it's not like they are doing it for just a one-off thing. I think there is a template already there on how to do it, and these guys, they stick to that template from time to time. And we've seen other clubs who also have got some bright talents coming from the academy, are not using those bright talents, and these bright talents at the end of the day end up in other top European teams and
yeah,
become stars.
yeah,
Let's talk about the Chelsea academy. I think the Chelsea
yeah,
academy is one academy who I personally think is one of the best,
yeah.
one of the very best. But the guys that run these academies, is there a transition plan for these younger players to go into the first team? I don't think there's
Basic,
one.
there is, bro. Basically, you gotta prove your worth at a different club, and
And
then
be
they
bought
buy
back.
you. Then they
They
buy
buy you
you for
back for
like
4 or 5 times the
yeah.
price,
You know what I'm saying?
right?
So,
That's
Uh,
so,
usually the plan.
you
so,
know
I-
what's
so
funny? Madrid,
yeah,
Madrid is actually another one that people don't realize. Madrid is one of the best academies in the world. These
also
players
true.
just never end up playing for Madrid,
Real
right?
talk.
Exactly,
They
Real
never
talk.
end up
exactly.
playing for Madrid,
And
right?
and and that
PSG,
and that
right?
brings us to where I was going to, the faith and patience with these young talents. Not all of this football club has got that. They can spot the talent, bring them into the academy, have them for a year or two, but we they have the faith in these players to
Uh,
actually play them? We they have
So
the patience with them when these
so
players come into the first team and they can perform for a game or two? Would they not be shouts to get the players dropped?
and just to push on what you're saying and what Chad
Mm,
said as well. What I think is the teams that you mentioned before in terms of the Ajaxes, the
mm,
Benficas, or whatever, they're teams that typically overachieve in world football. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they have this understanding of like you're
Yeah,
typically
yeah, no,
overachieve. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I'm with you.
Because like they base it on a philosophy. So every coach they have coming in, I'm pretty sure if like I know people big up Ten Hag for winning Eredivisie. As much as I rate him winning a championship, the way the club is run, the way he was picked as the next manager was kind
mm,
of okay. Let's just continue this cycle that we're going. And we've seen clubs like Southampton try to do it, but they only did it for like 2-3 years. So now they're starting to decline. If you look at a Brighton now, they're starting to do it. That's why they can go so smoothly from a Potter to a De Zerbi very easily, and the
Mhm.
type of players identified in the market kind of suit that. Also accompanied with the youth system as well. This kid Gallagher's come in and hit the ground running, and that's because they play the system from the youth stages. The way they identify players has got to suit the system of the group in hand. And it takes a particular manager. There's two particular managers you can have come to your club if that's the system that you've decided to use. Because you can't now decide to add a Jose or a Conte into that, because as soon as you get them as a coach, that system gets disrupted, and you either have to start all over again, start spending money like Chelsea have done ever since Jose to kind of paper over all its cracks. But if Chelsea were a properly run club, they would have been able to utilize the faith in those youth players. Maybe if they got like a Potter earlier in their transition, or a Tuchel potentially earlier in their transition, maybe we could have seen the utilization of their academies more, because the talent is there,
Yeah,
but the
yeah,
faith isn't there.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think everyone has brought up some very interesting points. From my perspective, I think one of the most active issues here is forward planning. Right? Many of these clubs are not planning. Even if they might have an identity, even if they might have money, right? They don't plan. We took Liverpool as a very good example. When Gini Wijnaldum was released, right? Which to this day I thought that was absolutely absurd. There was no plan for his replacement. For free. I mean, it's outrageous, right? There was no plan for his replacement, and then now we're seeing all of a sudden, a couple of years later, they're scrambling to find quality players to fill this midfield. They say they have a crisis. Well, it wasn't a crisis 2-3 seasons ago when you knew it was going to happen and could have planned for it, right? There are players that could have been suitable replacements. That could have been brought in, or at least said, you know what, we're going to track this player, right? You could have looked before you sell, plan ahead, right? Madrid has done a very good job of doing some forward planning recently, right? They look like they're set for the next at least decade, right? Madrid, which is superb. And even if they need to sort of get big pieces as time goes along, because we all know things don't work out perfectly in football, that's all they need. Is bit pieces. They don't need to do these wholesale changes like many other clubs may need to do. So I think that's another.
I have a question about Madrid, real quick. Just sidebar.
Yes,
is Dani Ceballos actually good now?
No, he's never been good, but he's a useful player. He's a decent player.
Because I saw him pop up with a winner the other day. I was just trying to check if anything's changed in football.
Listen, it's much easier to play with Kroos and Modric than it is to play with Xhaka as well, right?
Thanks for clearing that out.
And to be fair, Arsenal was also still, it was still rising to the point where it is now. It was harder times, right? It was harder times.
Thanks for clearing that out, bro. I was worried for a second.
Gentlemen, let's get into some of the comments here before we move on. We have the sports capital, big up lads. He's shouting out some of the panel here. Of course, my man. He says, "Oh yeah, now I need myself a catchphrase." I heard something the other day that you need to say something, I think about 30 times in a certain period of time for it to become your catchphrase. So I think I need to start working.
I'm pretty sure we could pick one out for you, bro. But give us.
We'll talk about that, man. Some team building and bonding and some branding going on over there. And then Milton says it sounds like Sundowns in South Africa, who really, no development. For all of you don't know, Sundowns is probably the biggest club in South Africa right now. A club that Pitso Mosimane, I think people would agree, brought to true African dominance and prominence. And they have become a team that really just buys up the competition. A Bayern Munich-esque. They have the financial capacity owned by Patrice Motsepe, multi-billionaire, who simply just buys the players that he wants. If you are just tuning onto the stream, this is Joga Afro. We are talking about how money is making this thing spin, is making football move around. We're talking about inflated transfer prices. We're talking about scouting and so on and so forth. So thank you for tuning in. Hit like, hit subscribe. S'il vous plaît, por favor, please, whichever language you speak. Gents, let's move on. A couple of you spoke about heritage. There's other words I want to throw at you here. Proven, potential, pedigree. Okay. I'd like to know which is more valuable to you, a proven player or a player with potential to be the best. Which is more valuable? Which should be more valuable? And define a failed transfer. What is a failed transfer? Right, Akbos, we're going to start with you. I made you wait last time.
For me, I think like for every team, you need to have the right balance, because I think like if you put 11 just 11 talents there or 11 potentials in your team, definitely you're going to get slapped by a team that's got the right balance in terms of proving.
Leeds, yeah.
You understand in terms of proving and potential. So that boils down to the managers for them to actually find the right balance. But
which one is worth more? Which one is worth more?
Which one is worth more?
Which one are you paying a more premium price for?
I would say I would not want to take so much risk. I would love to go with a proven player. Because let's say why I would say this. Let me bring a perfect example. If you bring me Kylian Mbappe now, who's a proven player, we all know he's world class. and you're bringing in a player like Mikhailo Modric, that we can see that, okay, this player has got the potential. Who would I want to bring into my team today? I will go for the proven player, Kylian Mbappe, because I know it comes today. Tomorrow it gives me goals, gives me the assist,
Yeah,
gives
but
me
that's
everything I want.
extreme. That's extreme though, because
Exactly. Okay.
you've just described modern day Pele. Of course, you're going to take him because the boy scores hat tricks in World Cup finals. But now let me give you a different one. Let me
Okay,
give you a
give me a
slightly
different one.
Let me
Let's
say
dissect.
maybe. Let me say maybe. Okay, let's keep with this Modric boy. Okay, let's keep with this Modric boy. You want to bring in? You are, I don't know. You're Manchester City. No, never mind. I'm sorry. You're Real Madrid. There's a player like Modric, Endrick, but Mahrez is available, or Bernardo Silva is available. These are players that have been doing it at the highest level for the longest of times. They're not Mbappe, right? But they're not players with only potential. These are proven players who've proven themselves at different teams, have won, and so on. Who do you pay more for? Chadley, what are you paying more for as a manager, as a fan? Potential or proven? Whatever those mean to you.
To answer the direct question or question directly, I'm choosing Mahrez. But I'm choosing Mahrez because it's Real Madrid. I'm not going to choose some unknown from Ukraine who's going to try and swindle me because they need. Yeah, let's not go into that.
He's a
No, you
baller,
can go in.
bro. He's a
Go. Feel free.
baller.
This is my
Bro,
show.
talk.
This is my show.
Oh,
This is my show.
no,
Feel free.
Yeah,
Feel
because
free.
they need welfare budgets and protection from outer forces. I'm not going to do it. I'm choosing Riyad Mahrez. Why? Because I've seen what Riyad Mahrez can do. I've seen Riyad Mahrez deal with pressure situations, high pressure situations. And I've seen Riyad Mahrez do it besides possible mistreatments he may have received over the years as well. So I'm choosing Riyad Mahrez, obviously. But to go back to the broader question, you can also prove your potential, I believe.
Discuss that a little bit more first.
Yeah, if you can get a 19-year-old. Let's say 20-year-old. Let's use Rodrigo, for instance. Rodrigo,
good example,
came, or Vinicius Jr., who came while spearheading a Copa Libertadores run, for instance, came 18 years old, I could give you a run in the team because I've seen what you've done at a higher level. I'm not saying I will start you, but I've seen what you can do at a higher level. I've seen how you can lead a team. And I will therefore be convinced that you have proven that you have potential. You have proven that you can develop. I'm not going to buy a relative unknown because you have certain things that could or might potentially work. I'm not relying on hope. Let me put it like that.
Do you think there's a lot of that going on, Niger Englishman? A lot of relying on hope. You know what? Actually, let me backtrack. Let me ask you the very same question because I saw you struggling with it a little bit. Talk to me, my brother. Okay, potential versus proven, and I know you like that phrase that I hate very much. Premier League proven. So I'll phrase it for you. Do you take Premier League proven, or do you take potential to take over the world? For example, Endrick went for 76 mil. 70-something mil. He's a child. What do you think of such transfers?
I think it's bogus, man. And Arsene Wenger saw this years ago that the inflation in the transfer market is absolutely ridiculous. There's players that have barely kicked a ball going for 50, 60, 70 million pounds. It's absolutely it's crazy. But the answer to that question is kind of objective because it depends on what stage you are in your project. So what you're willing to commit to for me. So for example, if I'm in a title race, I'm definitely gonna be more committed to buying a proven guy to get me over the line right here, right now. But if I'm like, I'm trying to get challenging in the next couple of years, I maybe say who can grow with me over this challenge. I see a good future for him. If he gets some games, I see him doing a job. So I could commit to potential, and that's a type of scenario. But when you talk about potential, is that based on the so how can I explain it? So is it a player that we've seen play a lot of minutes in the first team and is still young, or is it a player that he's in and around the first team, but he's not really been given a chance to show what he can do, but we know there's a talent there? Do you get what I'm saying?
You see, that's why I've left this open to interpretation. Because, for example, on Madrid, Hendrick was signed by Madrid without having even played really for the first team in Palmeiras. Okay. Yes, we all know his his potential is spectacular. I've seen the boy play in some youth matches, and he's wonderful, right? But is a boy who has never played for first team football at the professional level, at top flight level, is he worth 76 million? Now that's the question, right?
For me, never. It's never.
Right.
There's never a yes to that.
Right. However, here's the complication. You look at a player like Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish was 100 million. I have absolutely no doubts that Hendrick is going to be a better player than Jack Grealish. She's going to be a better player than Jack Grealish in a season or two. Okay. So the question then becomes, you see, this is why I was asking it to you guys. And I thought your answer was wonderfully appropriate, because you spoke about the difference in project, difference in institutional circumstance. What is it I'm looking to do? So on and so forth. I don't believe it's wrong to pay a premium price for talent, right? Or rather for potential. Excuse me, is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's if you said talent, that's different.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. For potential. Okay. But much like Arsene Wenger, I'm a believer of the fact that it doesn't matter how good you are or how good you potentially be. If you haven't done certain things in your career up until this point, I'm capping your value. I'm capping your value. Not because you cannot become that value later, but because you are not that value now.
And you have to now prove me wrong, because I don't
and
think
you
you're
have to prove
capable
me wrong. And you have to prove me wrong.
Like Saka.
Right.
So.
But actually, that brings me to my next point, which is about the definition of failed transfer. And I think a lot of transfers these days are failing, not on the basis of the performance of the player per se, but on the basis of the performance of the player juxtaposed to the fee that these clubs are paying for this player. So if I buy a player for 30 million, a 21, 22-year-old for 30 million, and he does not hit the ground running when he gets to my club, that's okay. There's still time. There's still potential. We will be patient. No one will complain and put extra pressure on him. People will be understanding. But now, if this same player, same level, same ability, same everything, arrives for 100 mil and then has 2 bad games, people are already saying, no. What have we played for? What have we paid for? And are they wrong? No, they're not wrong. Because when you pay 100 mil, you need to be paying for a champion already. And you see, and this is one of the problems that we're dealing with in the transfer market, is that some transfers are failing, not on the basis of the player not performing satisfactorily, but rather he's not performing in a manner that matches the amount that was paid for.
But also, I think a lot of players out there right now are kind of ruining their careers a little bit. Like, for example, you see Erling Haaland, right? Majority of footballers, when he was at Salzburg, right? Majority of footballers in this day and age go to Madrid from Salzburg. They don't go to Dortmund first.
They don't. Yeah, right.
Do you know what I'm saying? They're just like,
jump.
Yeah. So that's why I respect him so much, and I think he's going to be a world beater, because he's realized, okay, I know Madrid want me, and I know I'm good, but do you know what? Let me just take the pressure off a little bit. Yeah. Kill some other leagues first. Show them what I could do. Get some different aspects of my game. Then when he's ready, even you could say arguably, obviously, City. Let's be honest. City is the stepping stone for him to eventually end at Madrid. Let's all be. He's going to end up at Madrid at some point. He might be a City 4. He's not going to be at some Aguero at Manchester City. Let's all agree on that. Are we agreed on that? Yeah. Okay. It's still up and down, but I still think he's preparing himself to eventually go to Madrid. Whereas most players are like, "Oh, Madrid want me. Let's go. I don't care how much they want to pay for me. Just get me there." Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, and now the pressure's on. Like, look at Anthony. To be honest, if I'm Anthony, as soon as I start hearing them crazy prices, I'm like, you know what? Let me just stay at Ajax another year. I'll stay at Ajax another year. I'm still young.
Let the hype cool. Let the hype cool.
Do you get what I'm saying? Because now people are looking at him like, yo, this guy's supposed to be the game changer, where really they should be looking at him like they looked at Ronaldo when he first came. Like, a few tricks, let's give him some time. And no one's willing to give him that now.
Yeah, right, because of that fee. Do you agree, gents? Do you see that as being part of the issue there?
Yeah, I totally agree, because I think this brings us down to we now know that a lot of players have got their own team nowadays with the way football has become this big of a business. You've got your managers, you got your team, your media people and all of that. I think it brings us to the fact that some of those footballers do not have the right teams working with them, because it also has to do with who are you listening to. You understand? Some of them just have people who are just about the money. Okay, let's take him to Madrid and let's get a fat paycheck at the end of the day that comes as our kickback, as our commission for getting the deal done. Why some other people who are working with those players, they're looking at the players' development first before how much they will make for a move comes into the picture.
Right.
So for some of these gents, all they want to do is get the player the big move, and we'll get our fat paychecks as intermediaries, as agents, as people who are working with him. While some other people are sitting down, are strategically planning with the players which system, which team and playing style would fit into their next move. And also looking at their development, like, okay, if he goes to this football club, there's not going to be too much pressure for him. He's going to get game time. He's going to get time to develop until it gets to the time where he makes the next move to like a Real Madrid or Barcelona. Yeah. So rightly, like what Kunle was saying, some of these players are not a Galacticos yet in terms of in their CV, and you want to walk through the door at Madrid. If you don't perform in half a season, the pressure will definitely get to you, and you are out of the door. So players also need to get the right set of people around them, people who actually understand football, and people who actually want them to develop and not just being around them because of the money.
Yeah, absolutely. Chad, what do you think? Do you think players, agents, and people close to the player, advisors, whatever they might have, do you think they're also culpable with these large failing transfers?
No, definitely. The whole time while this topic was going on, I was thinking of literally just one player, and that is Darwin Nunes. Mm-hmm. I feel like if Darwin Nunes was not 100 million, we would not be slandering him at all.
Yeah.
The kid is 22.
Yeah.
He's 22. And he's literally a kid. There's academy kids still coming into the game at that age.
Yeah.
This guy went for 100 mils, and one thing, Nigel Englishman brought up a really good point, where when he mentioned Erling Haaland, he said, no, look, it's not my level yet.
Yes.
It's not my level yet. And players get very excited. We need to understand these are people in their early 20s, mid 20s, and we get excitable.
It's easy. It's very easy. We've been there.
You get excitable. You think, oh my word, I'm an assistant director at this age. Oh, I'm going to be a success, and that's just general life things. Without analyzing ourselves, we're looking like, look here, I could go here, but I could go there, be a star, and prove that I'm worth that move, and then they'll come knocking again. But another point that I want to bring out is 2 points. Number one, clubs are too willing to bow down to get this player. They're way too willing to bow down to get this player, as if the player means more than the club itself. That, I feel, is one factor that needs to change. If you look at, and I know it's the second time I'm bringing him up, Jose Mourinho, he never really made any huge money signings ever. We can't think of a player he bought for.
He bought Paul Pogba for 100 mil, man. What are you trying to say? And that was years ago.
I wonder what's going
on. That was years ago.
It Woodward.
Yes, it was him.
Wasn't he? No. Wasn't he throwing around some big monies at Chelsea? Wasn't he throwing around some big monies at Chelsea?
Chad, stop this thing.
No. It wasn't huge. No, it wasn't
Bro,
huge.
bro.
Understand, the president
Hey,
also made
Bizo,
signings. No, no,
Bizo,
no,
this is
no.
what
The
Chad's
president
doing.
also made.
This is what Chad's doing, yeah. Where, like,
Roman Abramovich
obviously,
made a lot of
Jose made
signings.
his big signings before Neymar, so big looks different those
Now.
times than it looks now. So he made
But-
big money signings before Neymar. So yeah, don't fight, Chad. Just
No, but
because
the president
Neymar took it
bosses
to the
also-
next level, he still
I
made
will
like
bring-
the first two windows in Chelsea. Are you joking me, bro?
No, I will bring up a point. No, I'll bring up a point, and I think my point will defend what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
Carlo
so.
Ancelotti, when he came to Real Madrid in 2012, the club bought Gareth Bale. This man did not want Gareth Bale,
Fair enough.
but
So
Florentino Perez.
your argument is that some of the players that were wanted by Chelsea were not necessarily wanted by Jose Mourinho. Is that what you're?
Yes, whoever he wanted.
Only
Whoever he
Shevchenko.
wanted.
Only Shevchenko. Other than that, everyone else he wanted, bro.
No, there's a name, there's a list, but
Okay.
whoever the manager wanted, if Jose wanted him and that man came with ridiculous amounts, he said, no, it's fine. I'll get someone else and we'll still be great.
Yeah,
And-
that's true.
And I feel like nowadays, clubs and managers, they buy too much into the hype. They really just buy too much into the hype. And the clubs themselves, I believe, need to understand that, look here, we are this club. It is not about this player, it's about the club.
Yeah, 100%. I reckon the agents are so good at selling whatever they're on now that these coaches are just bamboozled by these agents, man. It's crazy. They have so much control now. It's actually embarrassing.
Yeah. They actually, for FIFA for quite some time now, has been trying to regulate these agents, and I mean, there've been multiple. We should actually maybe even do a show about that. Talk about agents and sort of their impact on the game. Yeah, and we have a lot of stories, especially coming out of the continent, about these guys. Okay, but gents, I'm going to move on from this topic, as juicy as it is, because I'd like to really get into some serious other questions for you guys that you're both going to love and hate. Before I do that, let's see what Milton Nkatling has to say for us here. I also feel like these clubs sign players with no actual plan. There's little coaching after these big money signings. They put them on and expect magic without giving them a mission statement, right? Which is a little
Ole.
right, exactly. Which is a little bit about like what I think we've all mentioned to a certain degree, which is that teams don't have identities, teams don't have plans, right? And then once this player has come, even though this is a player with only potential, just because they have paid proven player money, they expect a proven player. No, you've played proven player money for a potential player. So it's not the player's problem that you were expecting immediate impact and he wasn't prepared for that, right? You're the one that paid that money, right? The player didn't ask for his own transfer fee. Does that make sense? So I completely understand what Milton has to say there. But let's move on to another question, okay? Because it's something that for some time I think has been changing. But maybe I'm a traditionalist, but I still have a little bit of a connection to this principle. Okay. Should pedigree matter and economics? What do I mean? So, for example, Modric is Ukrainian. What has Ukraine won? What sport is Ukraine synonymous with? Right? Okay, so there's Andriy Shevchenko, was a great player, failed at Chelsea. And I knew it would happen, by the way. When I was never a huge fan of Andriy Shevchenko. Okay, I thought he was just a glorified Inzaghi with more energy.
Oh wow.
Okay.
I would disagree.
It's fine.
Wow.
We'll talk about Andriy later.
Not the Milan Shevchenko. The Chelsea one.
I swear. But you see, his failed move to Chelsea for me was proof that he wasn't as great as he seemed, and that he's one of those players who, if the entire club isn't based around his success, he won't be. But anyway, my overarching point is, right? Should, for example, your passport your national identity, should it matter? The club which you're being purchased from. If you're being purchased from, for example, a Ukraine, where they never see these kinds of monies, should I be paying the same for you as I'm paying for a player that's playing in Spain, where we know players tend to be valued a little more because the level of the league is a little higher? Should a Brazilian player and a Bolivian player cost the same amount? Should a South African player and a Nigerian player cost the same amount? Because the question that I'm really asking here is, when one nation has a brand, has a history, has pedigree in terms of the production of world-class players, and one does not, should I, irrelevant of the talent or potential of the players, should that make a difference? Should a Brazilian player by nature, by history, by tradition, should a Brazilian player be worth a little bit more than a South African player?
No.
If I would want to go with this one, but let me just start with this from this angle. If every fan from every football club hears that this player that's coming through the door is a Brazilian, there's this excitement that comes with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
This is
If
very
you are
tangible.
getting a winger from Brazil, an offensive player from Brazil, a midfielder, every fan from the football club are expecting to see a player coming with a flair.
As opposed to me saying to you, there's this quality CDM from Thailand. They want 80 mil. What are you going to say? You see that reaction?
You understand? Yeah. People would want to say, "Wow, Thailand." Let me have a look at this guy. I want to have a look. I don't think the reception of that news will be the same from if you get told, I want to get a DM from France. I want to get a DM.
Right,
I want to get a DM.
Right.
I want to get a DM from Africa.
Right.
From
and
Mali.
That's what we're talking about, right? We're
from
talking
Mali,
about history,
from Ivory Coast,
tradition,
from Cameroon. You understand?
Does this make a difference, Akpo? Should it make a difference?
No, I don't think ideally it should make a difference, but I think
But can you see why it does?
No, yeah, certainly we know the media always play a key role in football and all of that. There is always going to be that talk of pedigree, that talk of it's coming from a footballing nation per se. Quite recently in Bizo on the show we did on the Football Talk Shop, you were talking about Georgia also producing a player who, with in terms of talent, could potentially become a world-class player. You understand? But a lot of people hear Georgia, they are thinking it's a state in the United States of America. You understand? Definitely, I think the country is also. We ideally should not be the case, but we can't take it away from the way we've seen football, from the way teams go.
So you don't believe it should be the case?
No, I don't believe it should be the case. But also we know that the national team.
Aquas is part of them.
No. I'm trying to be realistic.
Hey.
No, Kunle, I'm trying to be realistic. Yeah? If a player if a player is a Brazilian international and a player is a Gabonese international, which do you think will command a much higher transfer fee?
But that's not the question we're asking. Is it right?
No.
Yes. That's the question I'm asking.
Does
it happen? Because I know it happens.
It does happen. That's not the way it should be, but it does happen.
But my question is it okay? Should it be that way?
No, it shouldn't be that way.
No, Aquos agrees with it. I can tell.
I don't agree.
Don't try and backtrack.
Okay,
I
forget. See, this is why Oyibo always thinks we're fighting, even when we're just conversing. You people love to entertain yourselves, though. Chad, what do you think, my brother? Because we've drowned you out. Do you think football tradition, heritage, pedigree, the nation you're from, the club you were produced in, so on and so forth, should those elements make a difference?
Yes, reputation matters. We've all mentioned this point in this little argument already. But besides that, if I look for a Dutch player, let's use that as an example. If I look at a Dutch player, I know based on culture what to expect from a Dutch player. I know what Dutch players have done, Whereas, as we've mentioned, if I'm looking for a Thai CDM, am I buying Ong Bak?
Speak about South Africa. What if I tell you there's a South African boy?
Wait. No, exactly. So Chad, what you're saying is okay for him to box us in pace and power. That's what you're saying. That's basically what you're justifying right now. No, because
No,
you're
okay,
justifying.
Let's let the man
No,
land. Let's let the man
okay.
land because I interrupted him. I interrupted.
True,
Go ahead, Chad.
He was
no,
late,
not at
so
all.
we're allowed.
I'm looking at if I'm looking at the same player that I'm looking for. I'm looking for a certain archetype of player, right? There's two of these players. I'm going for the Dutch boy over the South African boy.
Why?
Yeah, of course. The
Why?
South African is going to go drink alcohol and get pulled
Yes,
over the highway for drunk driving
because I know,
because that's the reputation of the South African player.
yes, reputation matters.
Yeah.
But I don't think Chad, I hear you, but I don't think we should base that on every player. My opinion is
No, but we have to,
of course.
Akos.
my opinion
That's what Chad said. Chad said that we
my
have to.
opinion
That's
is
what he's
this. I
saying.
didn't
Now you're
The
standing on
dictator,
hope.
the bloody
every
dictator.
Now
player
you're standing on
individually.
hope and not your brain. You're standing with your heart.
Because this same thing we are talking, we've seen the so-called players who come from footballing countries who are fraud signings.
Absolutely.
Who
Absolutely.
they were signed
they
for youth
because of their passport.
based on their nationality, and they failed woefully.
Yeah.
We've seen
Now people
someone
still
like
think Richarlison is Brazilian. Can you imagine?
We have, but it's risk versus reward, and to be honest,
based on
it's
any
risk
play.
versus reward.
Yeah.
I've seen Lucas Khadebe be great at Leeds,
Yeah.
The baller, man.
but I've also seen others. I've also seen AJ Mabizela flop.
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
You get what I mean?
Because that's my question, right? If you come, right, if I'm a club and someone says to me, I have the new Neymar. You can only say that because he's Brazilian, right? New Neymar.
Okay, what about if I say I have the new JJ?
Yes, but you see that's the level. But you see, Nigeria, I put Nigeria up there. If I see a Nigerian player and a Brazilian player, I'm absolutely going to base it based solely on the player. Right? There won't enter that because to me, Nigeria is a footballing nation.
That's what I'm saying. That's you. That's you, though. But the majority of the world.
But I'll get there.
Okay.
Let me land, right? So, but I will be very honest. When someone said to me, "There's a Ukrainian boy for 100 mil," I said, "Ukraine, 100 mil?
You did, Chris?
On what basis? On what basis? Even if he's banging goals in Ukraine, it's Ukraine, okay? So, I mean, unless you're Haaland, who was not just banging goals but breaking records, when he was in Norway, so much so that directly from Norway he was considered for Manchester United and other big clubs. Okay, but I really think pedigree makes a difference. I apologize, and I tried to hold this back. But even as a South African, if you say to me, I have a Cameroonian player and I have a South African player, more or less the same attributes, the same, ability, more or less. Am I stupid to go and buy the South African player, not the Cameroonian player? Am I stupid? Wow. What does South Africa win? What do we play? Where are South African stars in world football? So I think there's something about the actual culture of the country, the tradition of the country, and the culture of the game coming from that country that makes me feel like these are quality players. If I want an attacking midfielder and I have an English player considering and a Portuguese player, I'm most likely going to consider a Portuguese player. However, if we're talking about a center back or a goalkeeper, maybe I'm thinking the English boy might be better because each nation has sort of a tradition of these things. I'm not sure, what you guys feel about that. Let's get into this comment by Chadley here. By Milton here, which I find very interesting. Nationality is a problem because a player like Anguissa is valued less than Declan Rice.
Exactly.
But who values him less than Declan Rice?
The guy.
The market.
Bro. But deep down, we know who personally. I know the player. If I get served.
No, but wait, hold on. Who dictates the market? Is it not the Premier League, bro? As crazy as it sounds, right now it's the Premier League, bro. It's crazy.
I don't think the Premier League dictates the market. No, I think the Premier League they really only are. You see, this is what my opinion. What happens with the transfer market when a Spanish, Italian, so on teams are interested in you, right? There's an amount of money that's given. If you are Cesena or let's say another small club from Italy, let's say Udinese is interested in you, you're going to be priced less than if Juventus and Inter Milan are priced are interested.
And then these are worse than that. Let's say I'm a player at Parma, for example, right?
Yeah.
And Juventus want me, so they're like, you know what? Arsenal interested. Just say Arsenal interested.
Yes,
Arsenal are now interested in the same player.
But that's what I was going to say, is that the English only affect market for the players that they have interest in. When English teams have not mentioned the player, never will affect it, because now the price goes back to reason. But
don't you think that's why that's why what we were talking about earlier, the agents are so sneaky now? So what they will do is, because of how active Twitter is into the world of the football market now, they'll now leak some non-story about that player being linked with a move to a Premier League club and inflates his price. They tried to do it with, what's his name? Skamaka. When Man U and Arsenal were into him, it was like 65, 70 million. And then they pulled out. And then I ended up selling him for 30 mil. So I think the Premier League has a massive say because of the agents. They're becoming a little bit more sly when it comes to their dealings now. Sorry to interrupt.
It could be. No, absolutely. It could be. And that's a good point. It's also speculation, right?
For sure.
It is also speculation. But it could very well be true. Let's get into
allegedly. I forgot to add allegedly. Sorry.
No worries, my brother. Let's see what we have here for comments. Fabs AK says you have to play the odds in that situation, right? Footballers are an expensive risk. I mean, we absolutely know that. Few footballers at the top level are cheap, at all, right? So absolutely an expensive risk. Okay, who is the market? Does it exist in a vacuum? right? This is a good question, because that is sort of what Niger Englishman was trying to address, which is, there are these underlying powers. The hand is not invisible. It's not a free market. There are these push and pulls that sort of kind of happen. And absolutely, if you tell me Manchester City, if I'm a club owner, they have a player who's coming up, you say to me, Beveren from Belgium is interested in your player. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can get a solid 1-2 mil for this player. Okay. But if you come to me and you say Manchester City's looking at him, I'm like, my boy's 25 at the least. Right? I'm like, the boy's 25 at the least, because I'm also thinking about the team's capacity to pay. Right? Let's see what else Milton has to say here. It sounds like the football market is actually the European market, which is something I did want to take on in this show as well, which is, gents, is this happening all over the world, or is it just happening in Europe in the top 3 leagues?
Europe, bro. Europe, top 3 leagues, man. That's what I think. I don't even like the transfer market outside of Europe. So it must, does it exist as far as the mainstream media makes you believe?
Where do you think all these blacks at Crystal Palace are coming from? Of course it exists.
No, but you get what I mean. The way the mainstream media portray it's like there's only a market in Europe.
Right.
You don't even hear about the deals that, let's say, Brighton do and the Crystal Palace do with some smaller clubs. You just hear what's going on in Europe with the European people is in the 3 leagues. You're right. It's crazy.
Yeah. Chadley, you want to take us away here? You have something to say here on this?
Yeah, I think that the market that we know is European, but I won't say it's only in Europe that's like this, because in Africa, we're faced with the exact similar problems. If a Cameroonian boy is wanted by TP Mazembe versus if he's wanted by Sundowns versus if he's wanted by Casablanca.
Yeah.
They are 3 totally different price ranges.
Yeah.
Altogether. Yeah. Because if this Cameroonian boy is moving to TP Mazembe, yes, there's prestige, but if he gets looked at, what is the buyback value?
Right.
What is the buyback value of him playing in the Congolese league versus what is the buyback value of him playing in the CSL, where there is more marketability, but the prestige isn't so high, versus What if he's playing in Casablanca?
Right.
Who's
Which is a
competing?
stone's throw away from Europe.
Exactly. And the price levels are like that. I will bring up an example which we've mentioned previously in previous shows. Aliou Dieng.
Yes,
Aliou Dieng
yeah, great
was
example.
priced out. He was priced out of moves to Europe. Why? Because he's an important cog of the Al Ahly team. And Al Ahly was in a position to say, we want so much for him.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Yeah.
And I've seen it with South African teams too, where
That's true.
Where a South African team will value a player, even if it's overvalued. They will value a player a certain way because, oh, you're from Europe. You think
you have money. Yeah, you have money. Come and pay.
No way.
And actually, that's made a lot of South African players. For those who don't know, a lot of South African players have suffered and not gone to Europe. Their careers have stalled in South Africa because South African teams are asking much more money than what the European teams value them at.
Exactly. In 2000,
which is so wild. That's a whole different discussion, man. Oh gosh.
In 2009, for instance, Gala wanted, believe it or not, Spiwe Shabalala.
Yeah.
But the problem is they wanted him for 500,000 euros.
Right. And Chiefs wanted what, like $1 million or 1.2 or something like that, 2 million?
It was about 2 million.
Yeah, but you see, then here comes the problem.
They should pay.
Here comes the problem. Here comes the problem, Kule. And this is why I asked about tradition and your national brand. Because I'll be damned if I'm paying 2 million for a guy that can potentially come and just drink my beer and then go home a failure. This is the problem. Now, if you said to me, a Zambian, a Congolese, a Cameroonian, a Nigerian, maybe I'm paying because even if that 2 million is a fail, it was a better risk than 2 million for a South African.
Yeah,
when was the last big South African?
I hear it.
Stevie P and McCarthy. Let me say to you, I say there's a player from Djibouti, right? Botswana, Swaziland. What are you paying? You're going to pay 100 mil? I don't care. I don't care. Unless that boy said Real Madrid. Yeah, I don't know, Jess. Let's get into just the last comments here before we start to wind down, gentlemen. I don't like to go much longer than around 70 minutes. But let's see what Masava Amunga has to say. Our brother, our Kenyan, Zimbabwean, South African. This one, he's from all over the place. He says, but we know this. Europe is where the money is. Only recently are we seeing your other players, China, Saudi Arabia, offering competitive prices, right? I mean, this is true, right? It's only recent. I mean, even the likes of Flamengo have only recently been able to buy players playing in Europe on a consistent basis, who are still even maybe at the peak of their games. Whereas before, maybe players were coming back to Brazil to finish their careers. Some of them are coming back in the middle of it to revive. And Flamengo has that kind of money, which maybe they didn't have. What about transfers in Asia? As an African, I watch African football, I watch South American football, I watch European football. I've never heard about transfers between Asian clubs. Who's the big baller?
Who's the biggest transfer?
Yeah. Right? Who's the big baller in the J League? I don't know. I don't have access to these things.
Let us know, man. We only had that one little segment where I think the Asian clubs were doing madness, like buying all sorts of players.
The Chinese,
that's it. The Chinese, yeah, that's it.
Which, by the way, they went bankrupt.
Yeah,
many of these clubs. It didn't wield.
Didn't
well.
work out. Yeah,
it didn't work out.
And a lot of those players are back in Europe now.
They're back in Europe.
Where's Oscar? Where does Oscar play now?
Oscar
retired.
Oscar's still in. Oscar's still there. He's still there.
Hulk and them man there.
Hulk came back to Brazil and actually had a pretty successful stint towards the end. So some of these guys, things have been going well for them. Let's see here, a couple more comments. He was definitely going to finish the beer. These are the South African players. Journalistic integrity. You want me to be a patriot here? I refuse. South Africans, they drink. Let's see. Everyone knows that English clubs are willing to pay more. And this is the thing. When they knock on the door, You know, I see money bags. I see an opportunity to secure my short to medium term future. You know, I say no. We sell this player. We don't need to sell another one for the next 2 years. You know, I mean, think about the kind of power that where did this boy come from? This Russian Ukrainian boy. What's the club he came from? Remind me.
Shakhtar
Donetsk.
Oh, okay. Well, Shakhtar was already pretty big club. They already sell, but think about what 100 million means in the Ukrainian league. Do you see? Because that's the kinds of things I'm talking about. 100 million in England no longer buys you that much, right? But 100 million in Belgium, 100 million in Ukraine, that's too much. It's too much. It's too much. You know, so these kinds of things really mess up the balance of football. But gents, I'm going to bring us to a close here, because if not, we can talk about this thing forever. We can talk about anything in football forever. So I'm going to ask you guys to please, gentlemen, wrap up. What do you guys have to say for the peeps at home, and where can we find you, gents? Akpos, I'm going to start with you, my brother.
Well, for me, it's been a very good show to come on here and talk with the brothers about transfer fees, which like I talked about on the football talk show. That I think this is a massive topic that I don't think we can even finish in 2 streams. And we've done part 1 at the football talk show, but we're doing part 2 now on the Joga Afro, and it still feels like there's still a lot more to dissect on this topic, and hopefully we could do something very soon to talk about more other subtopics on this one. But you can always find me on Football in Pidgin across all the socials. If you understand and you actually speak Pidgin, or you want to learn as an African, you have got interest, tune into Football in Pidgin. We have so much football for you there, and also you can also find me on the Football Talk Show. Thanks for having me, the professor.
Big up, Akpos, man. I love it. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you. Niger Englishman, holla at the peeps.
Oh yeah, now. First of all, hey, apologize for my abruptness. I'm the wild card on the show, okay? I can just throw anything at any point in time. That's number 1. Number 2, big up Akpos. Obviously, he's got too big to shout out One Touch TV now. You know we can't find him on One Touch TV again. No. We can't find him on One Touch TV again. No problem. It's okay. I understand. One Talk Show and Football in Pidgin, no problem. No problem, Akpos. It's okay. That's where they can find you, no problem. But where you can find me, it's okay. I understand.
One Touch TV is as much your channel as it's mine. So
that's what I thought too. But apparently, because I missed show on Friday, now forget
you people. This is a family conversation.
Sorry. As I'm winding down, you can catch me on One Touch TV. You can catch me on Tunnel TV, and also you can catch me on Red TV as well. Big up all the people. Smash the like button, share, comment, subscribe, all of that. Big up MBZ for having me on.
Big up,
appreciate it.
Man. Thank you so much, man. Thanks for coming through. Chadley, yeah, you arrived late. That's why I made you say goodbye last.
Good.
Go ahead, talk to the people, my brother.
Last, it's okay. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, make good decisions. You can start off by tuning in to Football is Pidgin, One Touch TV, and most importantly, Joga Afro.
Only most important because we're on my show right now. He's very good at securing his own. Yeah, it's self-preservation there. Chadley, I appreciate you, my brother. Thanks a lot, man. Folks at home, thank you so much for tuning in. All the folks here in the chat, I really appreciate it. The one guy that I didn't actually end up shouting out was this man here, right? RJH
Big
Radio
up,
Saminam. Okay, big up, honey. Appreciate you, man. Love that dude, man. Good peeps. But for everybody that tuned in, that will tune in later, thank you so much for being here. This is Joga Afro, right? Football from an African perspective, but all of football. But we have to bring that jollof, huh? We have to bring that jollof, man. We have to bring that puff to the people so that they can have some flavor, right? Like, subscribe, do the damn thing, and look out for us, man. We're on all these channels. We're in Football in Pidgin. We're on One Touch. We're all over the place, folks. So please just stay tuned, and we'd love to be with you on the next episode, right?
See you next Monday, guys.
That's it for today. Thanks, everybody. Peace.
See you soon.